All right, it's time to get into the history of tomatoes. It's my first time watching this channel, but I heard good things. So yeah, let's get into it.
From sauce to soup to ketchup, sun-dried, roasted, or even raw, the tomato can liven up pretty much any dish. But that was not always the case. So today we are going to make an early Italian tomato recipe from the 18th century called Pomodori Farciti alle erbette, tomatoes stuffed with herbs. Then we'll take a look at how the once vilified tomato made its way into grocery stores around the world.
They were vilified?
Tasting history.
What the heck? Tasting
Today's
history.
Comes
I
from
like
Il
that.
Cuoco Galante, or The Gallant Cook, by Vincenzo Corrado, first published in the Kingdom of Naples in 1773. Now, it's not the first European cookbook to use tomatoes in recipes, but it is the first that uses them in ways that we would associate with modern Italian cuisine. So, since this is an Italian dish, go ahead and pour a glass of fine Italian wine, or in my case, decent Californian wine, and let's get started. Tomatoes.
I don't drink wine, but
mince parsley, onion, sorrel, and mint. Add ham. Season with salt and pepper. Add egg yolk and grated provatura. Stuff the mixture into the tomatoes, fry them, and serve them with ham broth.
That actually sounds pretty delicious, not gonna lie. Not so sure, like, I'm not a huge fan of parsley, but I think, like, in this combination it would actually enhance the dish. But ham broth? Damn.
First, thank you to my friend Francesco Vitellini who helped me translate that. I would have been lost without him, especially when I get to the ham broth part. And frankly, I don't know what ham broth is, and
I was gonna say, like, what the heck is ham broth? Is it like when you make a ham into the oven and it's just what remains of it? Man, are you team tomato or team anti-tomato, chat?
I don't really want to make ham broth right now, so I'm just going to do the stuffed tomatoes. Now, the amounts of each ingredient that you're going to need for this recipe are going to vary depending on the size of your tomatoes and how many you want, so you're going to kind of have to eyeball it. What you'll need is several small tomatoes. You don't want the big beefsteak ones, but you also don't want like tiny little heirloom ones. Those are going to be too hard to stuff, so something in the middle. Italian parsley.
So an average
onion, sorrel. Now, if you have trouble finding sorrel, and if you live in the United States, you're probably going to have trouble finding sorrel, like I did.
Damn,
go ahead and use either arugula or chard, which is what I ended up using, or really any kind of bitter green is going to do the trick. We make do.
I'm like, The bitterness is very different, I feel like, between them. I'd probably not go with a super bitter option, though.
Mint, prosciutto, egg yolks.
Prosciutto.
It's going to be about 1 egg yolk to every 1.5 or 2 tomatoes, depending on the size. Provatura, which is a fresh cheese made from either cow or buffalo milk, also might be hard to find in the United States, so go ahead and use a fresh mozzarella. It'll do the trick. And then just a bit of salt and pepper and olive oil for frying. So to get started on the filling, mince your parsley, sorrel, or whatever green you're using, your mint, and the onion, and mix them in a bowl together. Then either chop or tear up your prosciutto into small pieces and mix that in along with a bit of salt and pepper.
That looks really
then
nice.
A liberal amount of cheese and drop in your egg yolks and mix everything together until it forms a paste. Super easy and super quick, which is great because that'll give us time to see how the star of our dish made its way onto menus worldwide.
That looks really nice for stuffing for a tomato, and really easy to make and
Tomatoes are a
fast.
New World food, and there is some debate about exactly where in the New World they came from. You can still find wild tomatoes in the Andes of Peru, but they were cultivated by around 700 AD all over Central and South America. But it's the Aztecs that we can thank for their modern English name, tomato, coming from the Aztec word tomato. And it was just one of many New World ingredients that the Spanish conquistadors snapped up and took back with them to Europe. But once they got there, tomatoes got some mixed reviews. Italian herbalist Pietro Andrea Mattioli, who called it the apple of gold, or pomme d'or, where the Italians get the word pomodoro, associated it with the mandrake, which was a biblical aphrodisiac. But before long, people began associating it with belladonna, or deadly nightshade, which was a popular poison at the time, and the poison that Juliet took to appear dead at the end of the play. Not a great association. So it was time to give tomatoes a rebrand with a new scientific name. Unfortunately, the rebrand sucked because the scientific name for tomatoes is Lycopersicon esculentum, or edible wolf peach.
Edible wolf peach! What? That's such a terrible rebrand, man. Like, not only is it pompous, but also it's like, yeah. Oh.
I'm guessing they did not workshop that name because it's not great.
Yeah, it's not great, I agree.
And poor tomatoes' reputation took another hit when Europe's elite thought that it was killing them, because it kind of was. See, back in the 16th and 17th century, the elite of Europe were eating off of pewter plates with pewter forks and knives. Unfortunately, pewter has lead in it, which isn't enough to give you acute lead poisoning or anything like that unless you put some highly acidic foods on it, which leach the lead out.
You know, the worst part of this entire thing where I'm getting explained about the lead part is the fact that Lunchables has lead in them is the only thing that's on my mind.
Rather quickly, and that is what tomatoes do. So, yeah. So it didn't take long for Northern Europeans to just completely abandon eating tomatoes. But they were still grown in abundance in Britain and the American colonies for decoration. They were kind of like the Christmas tree ornaments of an English garden, I suppose. But in Southern Europe, they must have looked around and seen the poor people eating them, not on pewter plates, and they weren't dying, so they thought, maybe we'll give these things another shot. And by the end of the 18th century, they were all the rage in Italian cooking. And it must have been one of the descendants of those Italian cooks who finally brought eating the tomato to America. Though it took quite some time, which I've always thought was weird because just down the way in Mexico, they were eating them this entire time and like nobody in America noticed.
I mean, oh, damn, that's crazy. It's kind of funny, like, oh, well, those people, yeah, we don't care what they eat.
I guess they were busy with smallpox and stuff. Anyway, in his book, The Tomato in America, Andrew Smith talks about the shabby reputation this future Bloody Mary ingredient had in the United States. I have two favorite quotes from the book where people are throwing shade on this not-so-deadly nightshade. The first comes from Pennsylvanian J.B. Garber.
Are you telling me that, like, the Bloody Mary was the thing that made it popular in the US?
Hardly 2 persons in 100 on first tasting it thought they would ever be induced to taste that sour trash a second time. And as if taking Garber up on some sort of dare, S.D. Wilcox, the Florida agriculturalist, decided to make his own tomato pie, afterwards calling it an arrant humbug and deserved forthwith to be consigned to the tomb of all the Capulets. Here we are again with that Romeo and Juliet thing, see? Must have been a fan. But then a miracle happened back in old Napoli. See, the poor of Naples had been putting tomatoes on their flatbreads for years. Then one day in the 1880s, while serving Queen Margherita of Savoy, Raffaele Esposito added in basil and mozzarella. The Queen loved it, the people loved it, everyone loved it, and finally they brought it over to America to change the face of our nation forever to one filled with pizza parlors. So that's it. Everything's hunky-dory. Not
Margarita pizza.
Tomatoes are in like Flint. Almost. See, there was still that age-old question of, is a tomato a fruit or a vegetable?
Oh no, not this one.
Botanically speaking, it is a fruit. It is a plant's seed-bearing structure. End of debate, case closed. Not so fast, counselor. I object. Because according to the United States Supreme Court, a tomato is a vegetable. No! See, the terror...
of the no at the end there. Oh god.
The Act of 1883 required a tax to be put on any imported vegetables, but not fruit. So when the state of New York slapped a tariff on a shipment of incoming Caribbean tomatoes destined for John Nix and Company, Mr. Nix filed a lawsuit claiming that tomatoes are a fruit, because they are. So the case went all the way up to the Supreme Court. And
Holy
in
shit.
1893, after what seems like a lot of lawyers reading the definitions of fruits and vegetables from varying dictionaries, Justice Horace Gray wrote an opinion stating, "Botanically speaking, tomatoes are the fruit of a vine, just as are cucumbers, squashes, beans, and peas. But in the common language of the people, Whether sellers or consumers of provisions, all these are vegetables.
He makes a fair
But lucky
point.
for us, the pizza parlors of America were not deterred, just as I will not be deterred from making the rest of this recipe. So now that your filling is ready,
Like, he does have a point, but damn, I did not know that that's how it ended up being classified, and it was all because of taxing purposes, and damn. There's like so many extra layers to debates and things of the past. Only in the States still. Yeah, like no one overruled that. To this day. Crazy.
go ahead and cut the tops off of your tomatoes and scoop out the inside with a spoon. Then go ahead and stuff the tomatoes.
Oh man, I want to
do
do this.
Now the recipe says to fry these, and I'm going to do that, but
Fry?
they do have raw egg in them, so I also ended up putting them into the oven for just a few minutes, about 10 minutes, because the center was not getting to the temperature that you need to cook egg. So if you're worried about raw egg, go ahead and turn your oven on to 350 Fahrenheit or 175 Celsius.
I would just bake
Then
them.
take
Why
out
would
a
I
frying
fry
pan
them?
And pour some olive oil in it and turn it on to medium heat. Once
Also,
the
what's
oil-
with the being afraid of raw eggs thing? Is this salmonella issues or eh? I see. Damn.
was nice and hot, set the stuffed tomatoes into the oil and let them cook for about 2 minutes, which will let them get some char on the bottom.
It's a problem
Then
in the
flip 'em over
States. That
and cook the
sucks.
tops for 2 or 3 minutes as well. At this point, you're going to put that whole pan into the oven for about 10 to 12 minutes, but if you want, you can do like I did and add a little extra cheese on top because why not? After about 10 minutes in the oven, pull them out, plate them up,
They look
and go
delish.
ahead and serve. Et voila! Though
Honestly.
that's French, I don't know what, and here it is in Italian. Anyway, here are our tomatoes. They are
Oh.
gorgeous, and they smell so good. There's a little sweetness to the scent, but then you can also smell the herbs, which is really nice, and a little char, which I like.
Yum, yum, yum.
So here we go. Get a lot of filling here.
I'm hungry now. I had food and yet I want to make
Okay.
these. Holy shit.
That is wonderful. Oh, it's perfect for summer. The
The
ham
mint, I
actually really
guess?
comes through that kind of that salty ham flavor.
You know the weirdest part is calling, like, just referring to prosciutto as the ham flavor. It sounds so wrong to me, given like translating it in my own language, right? Because we have different definitions for like different naming for like prosciutto and just ham, what we call ham. So it's very weird to hear someone going like that ham flavor, like, yeah.
But then the herbs are really what you're tasting. The tomato, of course, you're tasting as well, but because we scooped out the inside, it's not as overpowering of a tomato flavor unless you're getting a really big bite of the outside.
I mean, it wouldn't be overpowering anyway. You baked it for 10 minutes. The tomato is literally gonna be sauce. It's tomato sauce at that point. It's not really tomato. It tastes more akin to the pulp you'd put in soup or on pizza, if anything. Alright, chat saying, in the States, the vast majority of commercial eggs have been washed thoroughly and it removes the protective coating of the shell, so American processed eggs need to be refrigerated to maintain freshness. Damn, interesting. I never knew that. That's like a pretty big problem there with the eggs. I can understand the wariness of it, in a way.
But oh, they are lovely and not that hard. I think if you're making like a heavy pasta dish or something and looking for a lighter appetizer, this is the way to go. Really not that hard and just lovely for summer. Anyway, if you do end up making them, I would love to see pictures, so make sure to tag me on Instagram or Twitter.
I do need to make
My handles
them,
are down in the description,
honestly.
and I will see you next time on Tasting History.
This was a cool channel. I actually liked it. It was informative. It gave me a food recipe to try out. It made me hungry. It opened my eyes about more tomato related stuff. Oh, yum 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 yum. But yeah, it's a really easy, fast recipe to do. It's literally like 15 minutes of work. Like, nice.